Hi, this is Bernard Trottier, Member of Parliament for Etobicoke Lakeshore, and thank you for tuning in to In the Hot Seat, the video companion to the Lakeshore Link, my means for reaching out to my constituents and answering the questions that you might have sent in. I've got some very good questions this week. Wanted to answer some of them, very timely also. First question I've got is from Lisa from the Kingsway, who asks, Mr. Trottier, I'm very concerned about this new trade agreement with China. Why would you support something like this, which would allow the Chinese to come in and take over our valuable natural resources? Very good question. It's been a lot in the news this week, Lisa. The foreign investment protection agreement that we have with China is really designed to protect Canadian investors making investments in China. As you know, the legal system in China is somewhat different than ours in Canada. We've negotiated 14 similar agreements, or concluded 14 similar agreements with other countries since 2006. And we're actively negotiating 12 others. And it's really to protect our Canadian investors in China, to make sure that they wouldn't be subject to arbitrary measures, they wouldn't be treated any differently than a Chinese company. And that reciprocal arrangement applies obviously already to Chinese companies here in Canada, but we want to make sure that that kind of status is cemented. As you know, China is the world's second biggest economy, so it represents tremendous opportunities for Canadian companies operating in that market. This could be Canadian mining companies, Canadian financial services companies, or any others. And so it's a real step forward, and it was tabled in the House of Commons over a month ago, and looking to conclude those, at least ratify the agreement in the coming weeks. The second question I've got is, I believe, and it comes from George in Long Branch, who asks, I believe we should be doing everything in our power to honor and support the veterans who fought for our freedom. Do you feel that we are doing enough for them? Well, great question. Obviously, this is Veterans Week, which kicked off on November 5th, and I'm looking forward to doing commemoration events in the riding on the weekend. And as you know, the first part of it is honor, and I think it's very important that we honor and recognize the contributions that veterans have made to not just our country, but to freedom and liberty and human rights around the world, whether it's rescuing Europe from tyranny or intervening in parts of the world that are dangerous, peacekeeping missions. We really salute the work that veterans have done. And that's why we've introduced all kinds of measures to make sure that veterans are properly honored, including new ceremonies as part of Veterans Week, and making sure the memorials that we've got around the country are there for generations to come. When it comes to supporting veterans, we're doing everything we can to make sure that veterans are properly supported. That's why we introduced the new Veterans Charter, which is the most significant enhancement to veteran support in the last 60 years. We've also introduced the Veterans Bill of Rights and the position of a Veterans Ombudsman. And we're making sure that the payments and benefits and whatever kinds of financial support that veterans need are getting there when they're needed. Now, the last question I've got is your government so concerned with fiscal responsibility and eliminating the debt, then why would you sign a contract to buy all these F-35 fighter jets at prices that are enormously high and ever growing? And that question came from David in Alderwood, and it's a great question. And maybe just for a little bit of precision, we have not signed any contract to buy any F-35s at this point. We've been involved in the development program since the late 1990s, in fact, because we know that the CF-18 jet, which has served our country very well, is reaching the end of its useful life. And we've extended that useful life somewhat through some enhancements. And we do need an Air Force with a fighter jet at its base. So we're looking at a CF-18 replacement, looking at the requirements that the Air Force will have, and they are the experts when it comes to thinking what will we need, not just for the next 5 or 10 years, but as many as 30 or 35 years. And those are long-term kinds of projections, as what kinds of involvements will we have around the world, and what will be the capabilities required to make sure that we measure up. We obviously don't want to go into situations where we've got inferior equipment, so they're looking at leading-edge requirements where possible. Now, we also want to make sure that the costs are properly being monitored and making sure that this is affordable. And that's why we've hired an outside consulting firm, getting some outside expertise, working with the CF-18 Replacement Secretariat, and making sure there's a very rigorous process to make sure the costs. Now, there's moving parts. We're working with the Americans, the British, and other lead partners when it comes to looking at the F-35 specifically, but looking at the costs of other alternatives that might be out there. And we're looking to make good headway in the coming months to make sure we make the proper decision. There's no point rushing into anything, because this will be the mainstay of the Air Force, as I said, for the next 30 or 35 years. So once again, thank you for sending your questions. I look forward to hearing more from you in the coming weeks. Please don't hesitate, and if you have any other questions that you might want to talk to me more directly about, I'm always available online, via the phone, and please keep asking me your questions. Thank you very much.